Okay, I think we will begin. So I'd like to welcome everyone to the regular meeting, March the 11th, 2015. Call the meeting to order. I'm going to ask all of us to rise and stand for the singing of Old Canada. And I'll ask Director Patterson to do a roll call, please.
Trustee Armour?
Present.
First Vice Chair Karkner sends regrets. Trustee Krem?
Present.
Trustee Garrow?
Present.
Trustee Bill McPherson sends regrets. Trustee Wendy McPherson?
Here.
Trustee McAllister?
Present.
Second Vice Chair McDonald?
Present.
Chair McMillan?
Present.
Trustee Richards?
Present.
Trustee Swan sends regrets. Student Trustee Sheila Cruz sends regrets, and she wishes everyone a great March break as she boards her plane to go to Europe.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know how you follow that, but thank you. Okay, I need a motion that the Upper Canada District School Board approve the consent agenda items 3.02, 3.03, March the 11th, 2015, moved by Trustee Wendy McPherson, seconded by Trustee Garrow. Can I ask you cast your votes, please?
I'm not in yet, but
Okay. Just a show of hands, all in favor? Thank you very much. Trustee McAllister? Thank you.
raise your hand. See his hand.
Are there any conflict of declarations of conflict of interest? There are none. We'll move into the Committee of the Whole. I need a motion that the Upper Canada District School Board move into Committee of Whole for discussion on agenda items 5.02 to 6.03, March 11, 2015. Moved by Trustee McDonald, seconded by Trustee Wendy McPherson.
I'm go too.
Cast your votes. Thank you,
It won't let me
Trustee.
join the meeting. It's not giving me that option.
Okay. I don't have the Just show of hands, thank you. Thank you very much. And that moves us on to our first item, and who's in the relationship? Who's the superintendent's been in the relationship?
10 minutes.
Okay. First, I want to thank Sylvia Speck for switching and coming here on short notice. We really appreciate that. So I'm going to ask you to come forward, and I'm going to ask Superintendent Tim Mills if you'll do the introductions.
Thank you very much, Chair, through you. I'd like to welcome Principal Sylvia Speck from Lagan Public School, K-6 school in North Glengarry. Also, I'd like to welcome the CAP this evening from the Highland family, Guy Lamarche, who's here for support. Before Mrs. Speck starts, I want to just comment on, I've seen the presentation, and Lagan has a history of strong student achievement, a high level of student engagement within the community, And the student well-being, the care and commitment of the school is something for me to be proud of, but for us all to be proud of. So welcome, Sylvia.
Thank you.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Well, thank you very much. It's nice to be here. So it's an honor for me to tell you about Lagan, and I'm hoping that through my presentation I can bring Lagan to you. So Lagan is a place where we truly all belong. It's nestled in the heart of North Glengarry. And the word heart describes Lagan very well, as it is an open, caring, and respectful environment for our students and families. As a staff, we have always felt this way about Lagan, and our recent parent survey has actually given us data to support that. Our families feel welcome in our school, they feel that their child is treated fairly, and they are overall pleased with their children's learning experience. So to tell you a little bit about the demographics of Lagan, we're a dual-track school. We blend our French immersion and regular program children during the English part of the day. We're K to 6. As mentioned before, we're located in North Glengarry. Our school was built in 1969, and it was when 12 one-room schoolhouses came together as one. So it's very family and community oriented. We have high parental involvement, 47 active volunteers with 177 students from 112 families. 29% of our students are involved in special education. They're not all identified. That also includes our students involved in speech and language. We've had full-day kindergarten for the past 3 years and ready to learn for the previous 2. And we are a proud school in the Highland family and Glengarry's feeder school. So to help you understand and know a little bit more about our school, I'll take you through some of our strengths as outlined through the critical success factors. So communication is important to us, and it's important to have strong two-way communication, which we do through Facebook, as well as traditional methods such as newsletters, phone calls, and agendas. Bringing the families and the community into our school is important as we view ourselves as a hub in our community. We're closely connected with the Lagan Recreation and their soccer program, Sparks, a local church for children's music, a local fiddle and step dance teachers for recitals, as well as the Dunvegan Museum, which actually houses some of its artifacts in our school. This adds to the rich history of Lagan and its very close ties to the Scottish heritage. Events that bring families in include student-led conferences, open house, spring tea, kindergarten Thanksgiving, and parent information nights. We've had programs initiatives with the Learning Disabilities Association of Ottawa. We've had healthy eating, literacy nights, and are currently planning a numeracy night for April. So that takes us to our resources. We have French and English book rooms, which houses a collection of resources available to all teachers to support their literacy block. We have a math room. This was a bit of an experiment for us this year. We've pulled all our math resources together, and that room also serves actually as a classroom for 3 of our math blocks. Technology is very important to us, but we do strongly believe that it's not the technology that makes a rich classroom, and not all the students need the technology all the time, but it's a tool that has to be readily available to all. So each class is equipped with a smartboard, a document camera, and a pod of computers for assistive technology. A computer lab is available in our Learning Commons, as well as an iPad cart. And each teacher now has their own iPad with which they can record learning through pictures, videos, and notes to aid in their assessment for learning. QDPE is very important to us at Lagan, and we're trying to bring in some different sports, more than just the traditional sports, so that we can really expose the kids to a love for fitness and being active. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention our volunteers. I mentioned before that we have 112 families, and out of those we have 47 active volunteers. So anytime that you walk into our school, you're apt to run into one of them. They are amazing, and they bring so much to our school. They read with kids in French and English. They cook, they bake, they run the breakfast program, the lunch program, the snack program, and the milk. They weed flower beds, and they organize some neat events. We have an e-waste day every year, a Christmas craft fair, used book sales, plant sales, movie nights. They even organize parades. So you name it, they're right there to help us. They're a big support. To tell you a little bit about our educational program, we really feel that this is where our strength lies. We have a big commitment to inclusion, all kids belong, and differentiation is really reflected in our classroom practices. We believe in using research-based strategies to teach, and action research has been an important aspect at Lagan, and it has really transformed our classrooms and the way that we teach. It started in 2005 with a Boys Literacy Teacher Inquiry Project when the data showed that we had a significant gender gap with boys and girls in reading. So our first literacy initiative focused on reading engagement from boys. Our initial survey showed that our boys really didn't like to read. So we used 3 strategies from Me Read, No Way. We used mentoring, engaging resource, and purposeful talk. So giving boys and girls, obviously, a chance to talk about their reading in purposeful and structured ways to help build confidence and understanding. So our action research continued through 2 additional TLLP projects. And TLLP is a teacher learning and leading program, or leadership program, sorry. Our project in 2009 looked at increasing engagement for writing and making the student thinking more visible through writing. And again, we focused on talk, and reflection and sharing became a big part. Our last TLLP just finished last year, focused on literacy again, and this time we looked at ways to deepen students' understanding and reading comprehension. And we used a strategy called reciprocal teaching, which is based on accountable talk and is now being used in almost all subject areas, including French. So we begin teaching these strategies explicitly in grade 1, and we think that rich, purposeful discussion that evolve around text will help deepen our students' understanding of what they read into high school and beyond. And I have a little video that will show you what it looks like in grade 1 and then kind of transforms into grade 6. So they have a little talking rock, if you'll notice that they pass back and forth.
Tiger pulled out its trunk. He then jiggled, then he pulled out its tail.
It will be about a group of people who go on a hike to the top of Mount Everest and see a lot of like junk and stuff. So they go back down and get cleaning stuff to clean. Go on a hike I don't really know. Mount Everest and see a lot of like junk and stuff. So they go back down and get cleaning stuff to clean. I don't really know, but see what happens.
I predicted that they will clean up all the garbage that people left on Mount Everest.
And I think this will be about people trying to keep clean Mount Everest because pollution and too much garbage that's like the mountain. Okay, so do you want to start reading? Okay.
Common language across grades and divisions, and we know that collaboration leads to better instruction and community in our school. The benefit of this professional learning and inquiry are now woven into the fabric of our school because we know that we must continue to learn ourselves if we're going to help our students. We are also in our 4th year of using Empower. Our school was a pilot school to bring Empower to our school board. To date, we have graduated 3 groups and have found that children's decoding and reading abilities have strengthened tremendously as a result of the program. So we know that the classroom isn't always the hook for all the kids, and we believe that we have to have hooks for engagement for all. Due to this, we also offer a variety of clubs that include sports, but other things as well, such as speed stacking. We have a Highland dancing club, scrapbooking, a grade 1 kindness club, spelling bee, so different things to encourage kids to be a part of it. And for staff wellness, we have a Friday morning breakfast, so every Friday we take turns bringing breakfast for each other, and that's kind of a nice way for all of us to stay connected. So to get right into our EQAO data, I believe that this is a slide that we can actually be the most proud of at Lagan. You'll notice that all the students who met the standard in grade 3 met the standard again in grade 6, and the students who did not meet the standard in grade 3 rose to the standard in grade 6. So that is exciting news for our students as they head off to grade 7, and it bodes very well for them for the grade 10 literacy test. And to dive a little bit deeper into our data, by the colors you'll notice that we do quite well on EQAO. Our grade 3 reading tends to be our lowest area. Due to this, it's a focus of our success plan, and one of the reasons that we feel it is this way is because we found students coming into kindergarten are often lagging behind in oral language skills. In fact, right now in primary, 15% of our kids are involved in speech and language. Therefore, as mentioned before, purposeful talk is an important focus at our school. When we dig deeper into our data, we've discovered that our students need more time and experience with open response questions, especially with both the implicit and the explicit questions. When you look at our grade 6 data, I'd like to draw your attention to our grade 6 reading scores. And you'll notice that there's a marked difference in the trend between grade 3 and grade 6. So we believe that as students are given the time, the exposure to continued strong research-based teaching practices and interventions such as Empower when necessary, their skill set in reading does develop. The strong focus of purposeful talk is also helping our students attain skills for idea development and deeper understanding necessary to score well in writing. Our composite scores will show you the same trends again as we've just talked about. So that leads to what are we going to do about it in our school success plan. Our school success plan goal number 1 is that all students will increase their reading comprehension and written expression. And the way that we're going to do that, our tactics are through the teaching of critical reading and thinking skills, exploring EQAO and classwork and anchors, and giving students descriptive feedback to help them move on to the next step. The use of purposeful talk, comprehensive literacy strategies, so those high-yield strategies in both the English and French block, and identifying children reading below grade level and targeting them with interventions. And our measures of success are our report card data, our data wall, EQAO data, as well as our classroom data. Our second goal is to increase student achievement in math. And ways that we're going about this is implementing consistent practices in language throughout the school. So on the pictures, you'll notice that we have a junior math word wall. So we're trying to use the same language in the classroom so things aren't new to kids. We also use something that we call a 4-square problem solving. It looks different in each class, but it helps the kids to have a structure when they're faced with a problem to solve it. Again, using EQAO and class anchors, accountable talk, and having a balanced approach towards math learning between concepts and math reasoning, so balancing the explicit teaching and the inquiry. And our measures of success are report card data, classroom data, and EQAO data. Our third goal is, because we are a French immersion site, this is what brought this goal. Our French and English teachers are working collaboratively together to identify curriculum components in which they can support each other. And you'll notice on the pictures on there, some of our anchor charts are both in French and English. Our word walls are in French and English, and when the teachers use strategies such as guided reading, they do that during French as well as English, so the two support each other. And our measures of success are report card data and kind of more anecdotal classroom data, our concepts carrying over for the kids, so conversations between teachers. Our next steps, where are we going to go? So assessment is an area that we're working very hard on right now because it's the thread that really ties our school success goals together. And it's the underpinning for strong instruction, especially assessment for learning. So what do the students know now and what do they need to do next? To support this learning, we have chosen 3 books with the help of Anne-Marie Bulbeck. She's the principal of program. The books are the picture below. So Redefining Fair is helping us look at differentiation and planning. The book on descriptive feedback is how can we give students feedback to help them move to the next step. And Learning Targets is helping us get more purposeful in our planning and in turn in our instruction. Of course, we're going to keep focusing on strong instructional practices, our work on differentiation and inclusion, and our Michelangelo work. Every staff member is tied to 1 or 2 students that they check in with, so just to keep that to the forefront all the time. And so that's Lagan. It is, we think, a special place for kids and adults with teaching and learning as the foundation of what we do. And the learning is balanced with fun, a strong emphasis on building character, and creating a place where everyone belongs. And that's it.
Well, thank you very much, Principal Speck. That was very well done. Thank you. I'm going to open it up to comments or questions. Wendy McPherson.
If I could speak directly or speak to the chair, I wanted to say thank you for coming, Sylvia. I know we had just quickly discussed when you were going to do your presentation, so I imagine this was a little rushed, but you did a terrific job.
Thank you.
I'm very proud of Lagan. It's our roots. A.K. McPherson was one of the trustees who helped build the school back in 1969, so it has a lot of roots for our school, and I'm very proud of our numbers and how well you've done with the school and all the projects that you are involved in there. Continue. You're doing great. One of the questions I wanted to ask you with the kindergarten, that's immersion, right? There is no core, the dual track for the kindergarten. Is that?
Yes, through you, Chair. That is correct. So when they come into kindergarten, all the students are in immersion. And then when they go into the upper grades, they decide if they'd want to do regular programming or not. So this year, we will have enough students to run a primary regular room as well. We didn't in the past few years, which has been kind of a unique situation, but we really need that for some of our kids.
Right, and that would be the 15% that you spoke about.
The 15% are students between kindergarten and grade 3 that are currently involved in speech and language. That was the 15% I was referring to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? Trustee McAllister?
No question.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Trustee Garrow?
Yeah, through you, Chair.
Okay.
Yeah, great presentation. I was just wondering, since you're really developing your kids to go into Glengarry District High School, what's your relationship? Maybe if you can give me some examples of how you're connecting with the District High School.
The high school? Yeah. Well, I'm lucky because Principal Lamarche is here. Okay. So in order, you mean kind of to do the transition? Oh, sorry, through your chair?
Your kids are doing so well. Are they are you able to track them to see how well they're doing later on?
That's something that we should do more of. I think we make a lot of assumptions, and I hear informally through the high school that they are doing well, but as informal tracking, no, we haven't done that.
Okay. No, I know just basketball too. Besides, I'm wicked.
Trustee Armour?
So, through you, Chair. Fabulous results. Wow. I have a quick question for you. It's around parental engagement. You have 47 volunteers, is that right?
That's correct.
That's pretty spectacular. Mm-hmm. What do you attribute that to?
Through you, Chair. We had, when I came to Lagan, I'm not sure how many volunteers we had, but we had one parent who was really active in getting folks involved. And she has taken that on. She sends out, at the beginning of the year, we send out a list of all the things that you could volunteer for, and then people sign up for it. And from that, she creates a spreadsheet to make sure that people are going to be actually tapped on the shoulder to ask to do what they have offered to do. So she keeps track of whenever anybody volunteers and makes sure that everybody's asked at least once, if not twice, to volunteer for what they've offered. So I think there's nothing worse than volunteering to do something and not being asked. So I really attribute it to that parent, and also the fact that people are really interested. A lot of the parents that we have at Lagan went to school at Lagan, so there's those roots that are there. So definitely folks are interested to be a part of that community.
Okay. Trustee Wendy McPherson?
If I can just add to that, I was chair of the PTA there in 2005 to 2007, and we always were a good turnout group, and I think it attributes to a lot of our community is quite tight, also, and it bodes that everybody's sort of involved. We got some mothers who definitely create an environment very welcoming, and it helps. I mean, there at a PTA meeting at Lagan, it's easily 20 families represented there.
It's fabulous.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great. It's wonderful.
Thank you. Trustee Cram.
Through you, excuse me, through you, Chair. My apologies for leaving an excellent meeting in the middle. I'm intrigued with the math room concept that you had mentioned. And you have congregated the resources into that room. Do the students actually go to that room as well for their math instruction, or is that just sort of an area where the materials are congregated?
Through you, Chair. A little bit of both. So all the materials are congregated in the room, and then this year the way we've set up our schedule, one of our teachers teaches 3 math blocks as prep coverage. So she uses that room. She has the kindergartens in there, grade 1 and grade 4. So they come to that room for their math. And anybody else that wants to use it for math can use it whenever it's available at other times.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing there are none, I want to thank you on behalf of the board for being here. And Guy, again, we see a lot of you, and I think it's so important that the cats come and to support. I think it means a lot. So yeah, we appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The next school presentation is North Elmsley, and I'm going to invite Paul Hanna, who is principal right now at Sweets Corners, but is going to speak on behalf of North Elmsley. But Principal Sue Nielsen is also here, so I want to welcome both of you. And of course, as I said to Guy, John Gow, I say almost the same thing to you. I see you lots around here too. So again, in your role of CAP, thank you so much for being so supportive. So I'll ask Paul, come on forward, and I'm going to ask Susan Edwards if you'll do the introduction.
Thank you, Chair McMillan. And actually, I'd like to ask, is it all right if I ask Principal Sue Nielsen to come forward as well?
Most certainly, most certainly.
Well, North Elmsley is a wonderful little community, and I think with Principal Paul Hanna was principal there about a month ago, and Sue Nielsen is here right now as principal. And it's a wonderful example of how our schools work very hard with the transition. We don't hand off to another principal, we hand over. And so we build upon transition plans, and within a couple of weeks of Sue Nielsen taking over, they presented at Strat Council and are now here. So it's a very good example here of a transition where our principals stand on the shoulders of the person that come before them and take the school to another level. So my pleasure to invite also John Gow is here as the CAP. And I'll turn the presentation over to you, Paul and Sue.
Thank you. Thank you, Superintendent Edwards. I'll turn it over to Mr. Hanna.
I'd like to start by looking at the school's vision and mission statements, because everything we do links to them. And I hope that throughout this presentation you'll see that. The vision statement is a figure of speech about preparing students for life and work in the 21st century, while the mission statement uses plain language to describe a caring culture committed to collaboration. To provide a sense of what is unique and positive about North Elmsley, we're going to hear from North Elmsley students. We're going to show you a music video that was created, filmed, and edited by students of a song written and recorded by students with a professional songwriter.
Welcome to North Elmsley Public School.
Welcome to North Elmsley Public School, the best school.
Welcome to North Elmsley Public School,
where the best musicians come from.
Bienvenue à North Elmsley. Welcome to North Elmsley School.
Welcome to North Elmsley Public School, where the best athletes come from.
Welcome to NEPS. Welcome to NEPS. In case you don't know, that's an acronym for North Elmsley Public School.
Welcome to North Elmsley, where character matters.
Welcome to North Elmsley, the best place to be. Bienvenida a la escuela de North Elmsley Public School. This is North Elmsley, we're red, black, and white, small but mighty. We are the Knights, a school of champions, always shining bright. Our character rises above and beyond. If we work as a team, we will never go wrong. Friends and family since 1965. It's a safe community where we can feel free to be who we want to be. This is North Elmsley, we're red, black, and white, small but mighty. We are the Knights, a school of champions, always shining bright.
Data tells us that there is a need to place a greater focus on our math scores in both divisions and the gap between primary and junior students in all three subject areas. With respect to that gap, the general trend is that the junior students score better than our primary students. While that trajectory shows some promise, it's essential for the younger students to get off to a better start. On this slide, we have 3-year composite comparisons of primary and junior EQAO results. And over time, we are seeing a stall in reading and writing and a bigger concern with the math results. With a closer look, the most recent cohort tracking shows modest signs of improvement in reading and writing and regression in math. And you'll see the students who achieved the standard in grade 3 in reading and writing stayed up there with it. The students that met the standard in grade 3 but did not in grade 6 was at 0% for those two strands. But again, with the math, we have some work to do. Digging it even deeper, gender data comparisons over the past 4 years show significant gaps in achievement between boys and girls, with girls outperforming boys in most but not all cases. And by comparing this grade 6 data with the previous slide, it appears that as our students mature, the gap between boys and girls does narrow. North Elmsley attitudinal data presented as gender comparisons indicate a link between positive attitude and improved performance. And there are some inconsistencies with that data, but for the most part, we can see a real correlation there. Before sharing the school's theory of action to deal with improving student achievement, I'd like to take a moment to share math scores by strand. We concluded from examining EQAO test questions that the data management and probability questions require students to rely more on the use of higher level thinking, such as inferencing, than do the number sense and numeration strand questions. And when you look along the bottom line, the averages, the best score is in numeration and the lowest one is in data management and probability. And if we continue to look at our achievement in areas that require thinking at different levels of complexity, we see that questions, again, that require the higher levels of thinking, such as open response questions, present the greatest challenge for students. So we developed a theory of action that I'd like to share with you. The action plan is, if we provide opportunities for all students to experience learning through a variety of modalities with a focus on higher level thinking and making thinking visible, then the gender gap will start to close and results for both boys and girls will improve in all subject areas. This focus is not limited to just the grade 3 and 6 students. Of course, it applies to every student in the school. And the school success plan, like the vision and mission statements, supports the theory of action. So one of two components of the theory of action includes opportunities for students to learn and demonstrate their understandings through varied skill sets or specific modalities that I mentioned in the last slide. So learning activities for students to better understanding their learning preferences are provided. This approach can be summed up with the statement, it's not about how smart you are, but how you are smart. Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences is used to design learning activities that give students choices as to which learning modalities they will access to explore and demonstrate their learning. The other component of the theory of action addresses students' challenge with the use of the higher level thinking. So Bloom's taxonomy is being used as a tool for planning learning activities that place an emphasis on the higher end of thinking. The instructional approach facilitates a focus on real-world contexts, problem-based learning, and making student thinking visible. And so we believe it helps students develop the 4 C's of work in the 21st century, those being communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. And this links directly to our school's vision statement. So we developed our Open Learning Center, which serves as a lab, if you will, to test our theory of action under circumstances that facilitate a higher level of objectivity amongst the adults who are observing the teaching and the learning. So in the Open Learning Center, 2 regularly scheduled half-hour PLCs per week are conducted to plan and present learning activities based on the Upper Canada Math Hub model. So in teams of 3 educators on a rotating schedule, which includes all classroom teachers, problem-based inquiry tasks are provided, and students then hopefully and usually migrate to the learning stations that activate their preferred learning modalities. For example, you'll see the second picture in the slide, the body music picture. That's a table that on purpose has no chairs, because we do have students who want to stand while they're learning. They don't want to sit. They want to stand, they want to do their work, they want to be really hands-on. We have a big section in the middle with tables, nice easy chairs, and iPads for those interpersonal students who like to work in groups and like to just lay back and collaborate. And then we have to the left there, the intrapersonal learners go to those computers and they like to work by themselves. Again, there's more stations in the Open Learning Center, and we still have plenty of students who love that traditional model where they have their own desk and they have their notes in there and their paper and pencil. They love doing that stuff, and there's certainly opportunities for them to work in those situations too. I'd like to now share how our crew initiatives contribute to the school success plan goals. Communication practices plan and place an emphasis on sharing the school vision, promoting the school, Upper Canada branding, and for providing information through various electronic and social media. Every classroom has a Facebook page. And one high-profile method of communication we have is with a media screen at the front entrance of the school, which is used to share student art, pictures of students and families, scrolling messages, and the weekly calendar. Resource purchases align with the vision and mission statements, as well as the school success plan. The school budget is formulated through consensus among staff and shared with the school advisory council. School budget expenditures often complement the school budget goals. Sorry. To build capacity for improved instruction and learning, an emphasis is placed on shared responsibility for student improvement. I've already discussed a bit on how that's shared in the Open Learning Center. But that shared responsibility among staff for all students that I speak about is also part of every staff meeting. On the left is the electronic reading levels data wall that is examined regularly. And the picture on the right shows monthly progress of our Michelangelo students, our students who are in danger maybe of not meeting their full potential. So progress of these students is tracked at the beginning of every staff meeting with 3 colors, red, yellow, and green. And those colors are determined through thorough group discussion. So for each month, we can see with the color how that child was doing. Red means having some difficulties, yellow, kind of steady as she goes, and green is that child had a really good month. For wellness, the focus begins with character development. All staff believe that embedding character across all subject areas and frequent recognition of good citizenship are high-yield strategies for a safe school. Surveys, such as this one, are used as one method of measuring wellness. And this is an example of one of the questions from our junior bullying survey. I frequently use the character wall as a teaching tool when I was responding to both positive and negative student behavior. If I saw a student doing something really good, we'd take a walk down to the wall and talk about the character attributes that that student demonstrated. And our pledge wall is a powerful metaphor symbolizing solidarity and growth. So every year, each classroom will create a little poster with their handprints. And the idea is that when the students have their celebration in grade 6 when they leave, for example, this year's JKs, they'll have 8 posters up on the wall. And I'm sure they'll all marvel at how their hands have grown, but we'll be talking about how their character has grown over those 8 years. So I won't be around for that, but I think it's something people are really going to enjoy. As a way of visibly promoting wellness, the front entrance media screen is also used to celebrate student work, particularly visual art. It's used to recognize and celebrate the work of our volunteers who come in, special occasions that bring us together as a caring community. And it's also used to celebrate the strong family ties that characterize the school. For the past 3 years, we've taken family photos at the Christmas concert open house with the green screen backdrop, and then edit the photos with a nice Christmas backdrop. We email the photos to the families. And I hear a lot of them will take put the picture on a memory stick, take it to Walmart, get it blown up, and they put it on their fridges. So it's a really nice Christmas present to parents from students. And I like particularly how the picture on the right features a future student. She's a big part of our school community already. And it's nice to feature that and for parents to see that when they come in front entrance. She was busy chewing on everything that night. So at the moment, there are 2 considerations that really need special attention. And this slide shows the next steps and how we planned as a staff to move forward. But we need to improve our literacy and math performance. We need to close that gender-based achievement gap. What's really going to drive it is planning with multiple intelligences in mind and planning with Bloom's taxonomy. And there is a common thread that is made up of 7 non-negotiables that shape the sense of purpose with the daily practices at North Elmsley. The vision, mission, and values are at the core. Collaborative learning is the norm. The culture promotes shared responsibility. The moral imperative is to close the achievement gap. The school-wide focus is on using rich data to monitor progress and drive instruction. And everything has to reflect fairness, equality, and it has to value dignity for all. System and school crew initiatives are embedded in a culture of care and collaboration, and those are the 7 main things that we do every day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Principal Hanna. Comments or questions? Trustee Bill
I have a
McPherson.
comment. Go ahead.
I'll get you in a second. I'm going to start with Trustee Bill McPherson. We'll be right with you, Trustee McAllister. Trustee McPherson.
Thank you. I take pride in all my schools. This one in particular because I have quite a bit of history with this one. I was in the first grade 8 class at North Elmsley Public School, and looking at the video that you presented, most of you have seen a nice row of trees in the background. Well, when they opened the school, there were no trees. And somebody graciously donated several thousand trees to the school. And the principal at the time would send us out to plant trees when we got 2 rambunctious in the classroom. And we planted a lot of trees that year. I graduated from North Elmslie. Both my children graduated from North Elmslie. So I'm very proud of North Elmslie. I'm just curious, is this another one of Carson's paintings?
That is Carson's.
Okay, I thought so. Carson is, I know Carson quite well, and as soon as I seen that, my first instinct was it was one of his pieces of work. The question, so that I don't ramble on without getting credit for it, is North Elmslie just came through a transition from a K to 8 to a K to 6. It's not reflected here, but could you give us kind of a feedback on what change in culture and things like that happened at the school?
Through you, Chair. It's interesting, Trustee McPherson. There was a bit of an adjustment for staff because there was a drop in number of teachers, one, but a drop in the students. And students that the teachers knew well, they'd all worked with. I think there was that feeling of seeing them all the way through to grade 8. So it was a little bit of an adjustment there. But certainly with the grade 6 students stepping up to the plate and playing a leadership role has worked very, very well. Other than that, though, just with the sense of loss of the older kids maybe, and there was a little bit of adjustment there. But now, everything is just fine. Everything is
okay. Thank you.
Going along really well, and the 6s have really stepped up to the plate.
Thank you. Trustee McAllister.
Thank you, Chair. I just have several comments. One is with regard to the musical video. I really enjoyed the promotion of the school using the music and the outside professional help, as well as the participation of the students. Secondly, with regard to the EQAO data, I have yet to see such a detailed analysis of this data. And the subsequent actions by North Elmslie Public School seem to be the standard by which other schools could be judged, as opposed to the more popular media reporting that we see. It speaks to the real learning strategies which are targeted at NEPS. So congratulations, and a little message here to Principal Hannah. Welcome to Pineview Public School. Sorry, Trustee McPherson, your loss is my gain.
Oh. Thank you, John.
I guess there was no question in there, huh? Thank you, Trustee McAllister. You're obviously having a good holiday. Trustee Wendy McPherson.
Through you, Chair. When did you start the Bloom's taxonomy? How do you say that word?
Taxonomy.
Taxonomy.
Well, through you, Chair. Bloom's taxonomy has been around for years and years, but sometimes things get forgotten. And as we looked at the skills of the 21st century, as we looked at our vision statement of what we want kids to be doing, we realized they have to move into those higher level thinking skills. They were always there. Teachers have always programmed for them, but not in a deliberate way sometimes. So what I did was I photocopied the Bloom's taxonomy, nice color, and gave it to each teacher and said, how about we put this wherever we're doing our planning? So it's front and center, always, you know the old expression, out of sight, out of mind. So let's bring it back and really think long and hard when we're doing our planning about the higher level thinking. Because I remember as a teacher, whenever I brought taxonomy back, because you learn about it at Teachers College, my planning got better, and I enjoyed what I was doing with the kids more, because it's more exciting. As the kids are using their brains on the higher level thinking, they do great things that just charge you up. So we brought it back this year. To answer your question, sorry. That was a long-winded answer.
Yes, go ahead.
What is the percentage of the students with IEPs that year? Do you know your percentage?
Oh, I knew that when I was looking through this.
It's just
Through
it's a
you,
fr- it's a
through you, Chair.
frequent one that
I'm
was-
going to say, so let me think, maybe. I'm going to say, in the whole school population, I'm going to say maybe 15 out of maybe 90. About 15 out of 90, what would the math be on that? Maybe about 10% maybe? A little more than maybe 12, 13%. Sorry, I don't have that data.
That's fine, that's fine. Thank you.
You're welcome. Other comments, questions? Trustee Kraft?
Thank you, Chair. Just to follow up with Mr. McAllister, Trustee Bill McPherson's loss, or gain, is the loss of North Lanark, where Sue Nielsen has come from Caldwell, and I'm sure she will do an excellent job at North Ensley. So,
Thank you very much. You know, I like this. Everybody's listening. Everybody's sharp, and I like that. Are there any other comments or questions? Trustee Bill McPherson.
They have an unusual way of picking the principal at North Elmsley, in that they draw straws, because out of the last 39 years I've driven school bus, it's been a privilege to drive in there for about the last 20. And I realize, and I have to take my hat off to the principals, both present and past, it must be a wee bit of a surprise to find the school trustee driving the school bus into a school. But it's an experience that I wouldn't give up for anything. So, and but like they say, they draw straws, and short straw ends up with a job, I think, sometimes.
Thank you, Trustee McPherson. You know, as I'm listening to this, I can tell that between Lagan and North Elmsley that we had two trustees that should have declared conflict of interest, because they love the places so much and they got all this attachment.
Conflict of interest. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just talking about the love of it. I'm teasing you. Are there any other comments or questions? Certainly.
Through you, Chair.
Certainly.
Well, I'd like to say, Bill, you said maybe odd for the principal, but not at all. I've enjoyed all of our chats. I enjoyed our chats when I went out after 9 o'clock in the morning, and to sit there and chat with you about the school, and to hear you reminisce about the school. And it was a real pleasure planning that little party we had last year for the first graduating class of students from North Elmsley who joined the final grade 8 graduating class. And Trustee McPherson was part of that group. So it was a real pleasure to chat with you about the history of the school as we planned that. It was a great event.
Thank you so much. I think it speaks volumes to me in terms of us being a board made up of small schools, small communities. And it certainly shows the power of the small communities. So thank you so much. So Paul, thank you. Sue, thanks for being here. John, again, thank you for being here. And Sylvia, thank you. Guy, it means a lot that you come here. We really value the reports that you bring to us. And if you want to stick around for the rest of the show, you're more than welcome. But if I were you, I would. You know what I would do. So thank you so much. Yeah. Okay, moving on. Okay, back in September 2014, the Committee of the Whole passed a motion that the Director devise a strategy by the second board meeting of January 2015 for increasing the capture rate of each school, and that this goal be included in the school success plans. So at this point, I'm going to turn over the agenda item to Superintendent of Accountability and Alignment, Superintendent Bill Dawes.
Thank you, Chair. It's nice to have this opportunity to present this report. That's okay with me. On capture rate strategy. And again, this report is in response to a motion that was brought forward by the Board of Trustees back in September. I know capture rate is an important topic to the board. We're certainly trying our best to retain as many students as we can in this era of declining enrollment, so I'm pleased to have this opportunity to present to you. What I'd like to do, there is of course the written report. In this presentation, not getting into too much detail, just take you through a reminder of how we define capture rate give you an indication of our current state as it relates to capture rate, talk a bit about the strategy that we've initiated this year. It's a new strategy, and then a conclusion with a few additional considerations for the Board of Trustees. So just this reminder of how we actually use the term capture rate as defined. It's the number of Upper Canada District School Board students as a percentage of the comparable aged populations residing within that defined attendance boundary. We tried to make it shorter, but that was the best we could come up with. Maybe if I zip ahead a minute, you'll see in future slides a practical example of what we're talking about. But before I do that, I do want to take a moment to remind trustees of area population resident to the Upper Canada District School Board. I've showed these numbers many times before, but I just think it's so important that we understand what's driving enrollment decline across the Upper Canada District School Board, across Eastern Ontario, across Ontario as a whole. There was a large population of students that were the children of the baby boom, and those children were called the echo boom. And those children have, for all intents and purposes, moved their way now through our elementary system, and they're just in the final stages of moving through our secondary schools. So it's because of that aging echo boom of students that we saw enrollment decline in our elementary schools for about 10 years. And you can see from this table that shows preschool age population and elementary age population that those two population groups, for all intents and purposes, have now stabilized across our board. Our secondary age population, again, we still have about 2 or 3 more years where we expect a decrease in secondary age population, which of course then transfers to a reduction in secondary aged enrollments. So it's population that drives enrollments. Capture rate is a great way for us to look at apples and apples because we're comparing enrollments with resident population. This traditionally is how we've communicated capture rate to the Board of Trustees throughout the years. It's a simple look at our JK and SK enrollments combined as a percentage of the total area resident age 4 and 5 populations. And you can see over the last 3 years, we've had a very stable kindergarten capture rate at about 47%. Prior to that, we had a 1-year drop. And the reason we think for that drop is because that was the introduction of full-day kindergarten across Eastern Ontario. So that really leveled the playing field, if you will, for kindergarten registrations across all boards in our area. Prior to that, we had about a 6 or 7 year relatively strong increase in capture rates. So again, with this historical backdrop, we're now looking at capture rates as a key results indicator for the board. So we're interested in maybe providing a little more detail beyond the traditional view that we've illustrated here with kindergarten capture rates. And we've done that by virtue of families of schools. So this is an interesting look, something that's new to the Board of Trustees. It's a look at our kindergarten capture rate on a family of schools, CAP family of schools basis. And I'd like to suggest that there's maybe 2 ways that you could look at this graph. One is to look at, we've got here two year points, 2014 and 2013. So 2014 is the blue line and 2013 is the brown orange line. So if you look at it on a family of schools basis, you can see that there are some differences between, for example, the Brockville family of schools, which is up around 70+%, and say the Prescott-Russell family of schools, which is at around 15-16%. Now you have to bear in mind that this is an indication of the different populations that we serve across our board. Prescott-Russell area is primarily a French-speaking Catholic resident area of our board, and so we would expect to see a lower indication of capture rate in that particular area compared to a more Anglophone population area such as Brockville. The other way that we can look at this, of course, is to look for trends, and I wouldn't suggest that in only having 2 years of data that we're looking at solid trends here. 2 years, I would want to go further than that, so we'll continue to update this as we go, but you can look and again compare what's happened this year compared to last year. In the report as Appendix A, we've made an effort to provide these capture rates even more defined for you. And we've provided them by actual individual schools. Now I'd like to backtrack for a minute and apologize up front. We've made an effort in the report to update these particular numbers based on updated population data that we've received from our Berger product, and also to account for a few French immersion changes that happened this year. So this graph here doesn't actually match the final numbers in this, and my apologies for that, but we'll make an effort certainly to keep that up to date. But when you look at the individual school by school numbers, you really want to take these numbers with a bit of interpretation as well. Because when we look at, for example, a school that has dual track programming, what you're looking at is the combination of two capture rates. You're looking at kindergarten enrollment as a percentage of the resident age 4 and 5 population for that immediate area that represents the attendance boundary for its English program, and you're also looking at, combined in that, the capture rate for its French immersion program, which is drawing from the entire family of schools. And you're also getting into some double counting, really, because you've got a French immersion program that's overlapping the population areas from those other area schools. So this really is a work in progress. I want to point that out. And again, we'll continue to update these numbers as we go. I've never been afraid to admit if there's a mistake in the numbers that we've got, so we certainly want to continue to work with trustees, and if there's something that doesn't look right, let us know, but we're going to continue to work on this as well. But it is a little complicated. On the other hand, we've also provided some capture rates for grades 7 and 9 with this report, and that's a little easier to calculate because we're not getting into overlapping areas for most intents and purposes. So again, for grade 7, we would be looking at the grade 7 enrollments as a percentage of the age 12 population. Grade 9 would be grade 9 as a percentage of the resident age 14 population. And the reason we wanted to include those 2 points is because those are the 2 other traditional entry points in our board schools that we feel merit some opportunity to measure capture rate. The in-between grades, we don't tend to see as much migration in and out for those grades, so capture rate doesn't really provide as much of a meaningful figure. So in the report as Appendix B, we've also provided for you some school-by-school grade 7 and grade 9 capture rates, only for a 1-year period for these particular ones. But again, we'll continue to build on this as we go. So a few words, if I could, about our capture rate strategy, which we've started this year. And really, what I'd like to suggest to you is there's a couple of overriding principles that we've been working on in developing this strategy. Number one is that we firmly believe that the best way people make an informed decision to attend an Upper Canada District School Board school is to develop a relationship with that school, to actually visit the school, meet the staff, meet the other parents, understand the communication, look at the data, not so much just by virtue of looking at an advertisement. And I'll talk a bit more about our advertisement strategy in a minute. We also have an overriding principle that suggests that one of the best ways to increase capture rate is to run a highly effective school. So the schools that we have that create very welcoming environments for our parents, for our students, that have good results, that are innovative, that are welcoming, those are the schools that are really going to have an opportunity to continue to demonstrate high capture rates. So the first item of our strategy for this year involves our advertising campaign. You may have noticed a bit of a change in the way that we've approached our kindergarten registration campaign this year for advertising, and I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge and thank our communications department team, more specifically Cindy Peters and Allison Grange, who have played a key role in developing this advertising strategy. It's been called Our Family Welcomes Yours, and we've made a definitive effort through this advertising campaign to narrow down the language to inform parents of when there are information days at their area school, so again, that they can get into the school and make an informed decision based on an experience. And early indications suggest that it's paying dividends, but reminder to trustees that I'll be coming back towards the end of April to give you an update on our kindergarten registration numbers for this year, so I'll look forward to that as well. We've also made an effort this year through the Our Family Welcomes Yours campaign to boost up our advertising coverage in what I'll call new age media, such as Facebook ads, Google AdWords, and we've maintained traditional sources as well through posters, newspapers, and radio ads. The second strategy that we've been developing and are interested in working on is what we're calling tracking. And we haven't really gotten there yet, but what we're going to be doing starting in the next few weeks is clearly informing our schools through our school principals of how their registrations are doing, so that they understand where they're at in relation to time periods that we'll set up. So I expect we'll be able to notify school principals in the next couple of weeks of where their registrations are. But I'll really be looking forward to a year from now when we'll have some comparative data on similar time points, so that we'll be able to understand where we are compared to a previous time period. So because we've just started doing this, I can't really report on any trends now. I'll look forward to reporting on those a year from now and in subsequent years after that. The other strategy, as I mentioned earlier, is school improvement. And we know that our schools need to be recognized as welcoming, responsive, innovative, and results-oriented places of learning. And this really is an embodiment of everything that we're doing as a board and locally to continually demonstrate to our parents and communities that student learning is of utmost importance. And our effective schools will see increasing capture rates, certainly. Our final strategy relates to our service excellence campaign. We've been working now on service excellence for several years. The online service excellence training is still in place for all staff. We've had virtually all of our staff across our board now complete the online service excellence training, and new staff are required to go online and complete the training as well. As a part of our overall capture rate strategy, we'll be interested to start taking service excellence to the next level, to start visiting our schools, understanding how they're finding the service excellence campaign to be demonstrated by the actions of the staff in the schools, and helping schools to make a direct link between the importance of service excellence as a focus and creating welcoming environments for parents, which will again lead to an increase in registrations and capture rates. So, excuse me, a few words, if I could, about goals as it relates to capture rate strategies. If you go back to the original graph I showed with kindergarten registration as a capture rate, we'd like to suggest that as an overall goal, system-wide, that we could work on perhaps increasing capture rates by 1% per year. A 1% increase in capture rate right now represents about an increase of 70 students, system-wide. If we were to target a 1% increase over the next five-year period, we'd be up to a kindergarten capture rate of about 50%, which we think would be a reasonable goal to strive for. With respect to individual school goals, what we're suggesting is we would need a bit more time to work with our schools on this. We've been working very hard with our schools of late to help them develop goals that are related to our literacy and numeracy strategy. As you can see, the concepts around capture rate are a little complicated, and that's not the detailed information as we've shown it tonight as it relates to family of schools and individual schools has not readily been communicated to schools previously. So we'd like an opportunity to work with our schools to communicate this information to them so that we can deepen their understanding and also foster, I might add, a cooperative spirit between our schools. We want to be careful of the messaging that we give schools so that they're not trying to develop capture rates that would impact other area UCDSB schools. In other words, we're not in competition with other UCDSB schools. We're trying to develop comprehensive strategies where schools are working together to increase capture rates more from a family of schools perspective. And again, it's a little tricky because depending on population trends, you could actually see a school's capture rate increase even though their registration numbers are decreasing. I know that sounds a little funny, but it's really dependent on what the population trends are for a particular area. And as you can see also, again, the complications as it relates to early French immersion programming and the way that we align those boundaries. So we are suggesting Again, we'd like to stick to a 1% goal per year system-wide, develop a good communication strategy with our schools as it relates to capture rate, and continue to look forward to communicating to you the impact of our overall strategy, particularly the advertising strategy. Thank you, Chair. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. There are two things that I need to do. The first, in a moment, I'm going to open it up to questions or comments about the report that Superintendent Dawes gave us. The second thing that I will be asking the board to do is to take a look at the original motion. We've had a lot of discussion about this in terms of what the original motion asked for and where we are in terms of this report. So that discussion will take place after we deal with the comments and questions at this point. But keep in mind that the original motion asked for goals at the school level, and that is the second part. So if we can refrain from those questions and just ask the questions based on the information that was presented to you, that would be great. Okay, having said that, are there any comments or questions? Trustee Cram and then Trustee McPherson.
Thank you, Chair. If we go back to the JK to SK slide on capture rate, one of the things I noticed on there is that, yeah, that's the one, there's no previous, keep going back, next one, Lisa, I think, this one.
Yep.
Only 3 capped families are there. The North Lanark one is missing where I am. But I have a couple of questions on the data from North Lanark, so I'm not how you want to deal with that.
Well, through you, Chair, my apologies. We only meant to show this slide as an example of the more detailed information that we provided as Appendix A,
okay.
Which provides each of the schools by family of schools.
Okay, let me see if I can get it at it a different way, seeing the slide's not up there.
Sure.
Okay? Yeah, that's the one I'm looking at. If we go to Lanark North, and we're dealing with Carleton Place specifically right now, we deal with Arkland School and we deal with Caldwell School. With their percentages together, I'm not quite certain whether Arkland has a different capture rate area than Caldwell does, or whether they both go together to be added up because it's all of Carleton Place. I'm just trying to understand that particular dynamics.
Through you, Chair, my understanding of Arkland and Caldwell is that they share the same area. You have early immersion at Caldwell and you have regular English at Arkland. So the numbers are suggesting that Arkland is drawing a smaller percentage of that overall combined population area compared to Caldwell School.
So then if I was going to be, through you, Chair, if I was then going to be looking at the percentage of capture rate in Carleton Place, I would need to add both schools together to get the actual capture rate for that area?
Through you, Chair, what that would give you is an indication of the total enrollment between the two schools as a capture rate for the resident area population of the boundary area that both those schools happen to share.
Okay, thank you. That helps tremendously.
Trustee Bill McPherson.
I think we're doing a pretty good job overall as a board on kindergarten capture rate. One thing this report does highlight is the difference in demographics. Like, we're actually number 3 or number 4 in Prescott Russell. But what is concerning me, and this is the message that I'm getting from my school councils, is that we, through the offering of early immersion, which is in response to parent requests, have created a system where our early immersion centers are feeding upon our small rural schools, whether we like it or not. I can speak for Lanark South, simply because most of our rural schools are within 15 kilometers of either the town of Smiths Falls or the town of Perth. And I see kindergarten registrations going through the floor at those schools, and these numbers verified. I've got schools that are filling 16%. I think it's an acknowledged fact that we do see people moving longer distances. I've got people coming from Lanark Highlands to go to a French immersion center in Perth. What I was hoping to see come out of this, and maybe it's just my interpretation of the motion, was something to help those small rural schools grab a slightly larger portion of those kindergarten registrations. If they don't, in all fairness, they're going to wither on the vine. You cannot keep maintaining a school when you have 5 or 6 kids registered for kindergarten, and you have 15 or 20 or 25 or 30 registering at an early immersion school that's 10 to 12 kilometers away. And so that's the reality of being competitive. But this emphasizes the situation, but I don't think it does anything to address it. And yes, we do compete against ourselves, because the kindergarten campaign for an early immersion center, we have 2 catchment zones in my ward, and there's 6 schools. So there's 4 of those schools are competing against the early immersion centers for those students.
Director, do you want to comment or direct it to any one of your senior team to address that, Phil, in particular?
Through you, Chair, yes. Trustee McPherson, I think you make an excellent point, and it's certainly a phenomenon that has been observed across the board, perhaps heightened in some areas more so than others. One of the things that we embarked on this year was an opportunity for communities working with their school principal to indicate their interest in the establishment of another French immersion site in their family of schools, or in their well, I guess family of schools would be the right way of putting it. So, for instance, most recently, Superintendent Dawes and some of his staff have been working with the folks at Chesterville Public School, which is a fairly small elementary school in Dundas County, because the community, the parents, believed that they could certainly generate the support for such a program, and so that those students wouldn't have to travel to Winchester Public School. And of course, we're doing a similar thing in Long Sault and Rothwell, Osnabrück, yes. So there are strategies that we can employ. That being said, French immersion is an option that parents may choose, but they may choose not to have French immersion as well. And so our challenge there is to offer viable and engaging programs in all of our schools. And as you know, and you've experienced yourself in your own jurisdiction, that is a challenge for all of us, and we need to work toward developing those opportunities beyond the French immersion program that will enhance student learning in our small schools.
Thank you, Director. Any other comments, questions? Trustee Wendy McPherson.
I guess my questions are along the same line as Bill's. And it's perhaps some of my municipal counselors training that I can be able to say something that's happening in Highland School, where my catchment area is that the municipal government there is concentrating on a retirement community kind of thing, which is obviously going to affect young families moving in. So that's a challenge that we're going to have to, I don't know how we can deal with that, but it's certainly something that you may want to consider in our numbers, that whether there are forces at work that are working against us trying to get families to our areas. The other thing, I think your report is great. I really think this is a smart thing that we've done here to figure out where we are. That is a great report. It's very easy to understand, and I love how you've given us a lot of options to look at. Slide 5, which I think is, you said yourself, is new, and it provides for, I guess it goes back to the birth rates that in 2009 and 2010 are really what's going to be our go-to. Are you going to be looking at getting stats from the Ontario government to help us with the birth rates and to know where we are, if our catchment is actually good? Like, maybe we're really doing a good job considering how many kids were actually born 5 years ago. I don't know if you've actually addressed that.
Through you, Chair. Yeah, we're very fortunate in our planning department with the software that we use. We use a product called Berger, and the source of information that that product uses for population is Revenue Canada data, and it's updated every year. And so we have very, very accurate population data for school-age population broken down by the individual attendance area boundaries of all of our schools. So we rely on that information to do enrollment projections, but also to look at population trends so that we can line them up with enrollments to develop the capture rate figures that you're looking at tonight. And as I said earlier, again, it's always being updated, that information, so I appreciate your point about the formatting of this information and the opportunities we have to continue dialoguing about it and update the information as we proceed.
Oh, one follow-up if I may. It reverts back to your comment about, and I completely agree with you, that once we get a family into our schools, the possibilities of getting to roll their kids there is much higher. And not so much as it is our families, but it goes back to, I guess, our community hub perspective and getting groups, exercise classes, or dance classes, scouts or whatever into our schools, and on those sort of areas, there's not just necessarily a family, but an up-and-coming possible bride who will have kids in 5 years, who actually got her foot in the door, and you know, so I find and it's been a complaint that I've been receiving, that our school use policy is becoming quite cumbersome, and it's not very for profit, or it's not really encouraging.
But we don't want to go down that
No,
road
I
on this
understand,
particular
but
issue
I'm
right
sort
now.
of saying,
I hear you.
you're
So-
saying this, but we're putting in roadblocks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Trustee McDonald.
Thank you. I think I sound like a broken record, not just on this, but often. But on this, capture rate is an important piece in our business because, and I've said it before, and this is the broken record speech, we are the only board, Upper Canada in this area, or English public school boards in the province of Ontario, are the only board that has the potential to have 100% of market share. Catholic boards have a religious connotation that you have to be Catholic to be able to go to the elementary schools. The French boards, theoretically, and in legislation, you are supposed to be French and have French language rights to go to those schools. That doesn't happen. Things are being withered away a little bit. However, we are designed to get what we want to achieve, and if we're happy with 50%, that's okay, I guess. I'm not. If we're capable of getting 100%, I'm not sure that I'm happy with less than a really realistic goal that is incumbent upon our organization to make sure that we educate the masses within our communities. We have a unique product, and we can, sing it to the high hills of the product that we have. But there are a lot of things that we can do. The strategy deployed so far has been good, and here's another broken record speech. We have 4 years by the time a child is born before they make a decision for a child to come into our schools. 1,500 days for those families to make a choice on where they're going to send their kids. And we, as salespeople, going back into a business sense, have to sell ourselves to those families to say, we are your trusted advisor. We are the best option for success for your kids. And sometimes it's hard for those parents that have kids that are 4 years old to say, graduation rate is this or whatever. They're looking at the immediate return. How best is my child going to develop and meet the requirements at 4, 5, 6, in that close proximity to where they have it. They're thinking about university or college or wherever, but it's far off. So let's draw them in a little bit further and make that easier. The strategies are getting there. I'm supportive of what we're doing. Print ads, less, more communication. I think it's important for us to look at that as an overall piece. Capture rate, again, I go back to the capture rate piece. We are funded on a per pupil basis. So declining enrollment is declining birth rate. And our communities are not, with the exception of some bedroom communities around Ottawa, are not growth areas. So we will have some growth. But, you know, one of our struggles when we talk to municipalities is that when you put a subdivision in of 1,500 homes, you're hard pressed to get one class out of those 1,500 homes because not everybody has children. So even though it's a growth area for new home growth, that type of thing, those are people that potentially have already had their kids and they're moving on. So new homes don't necessarily mean new students. We've got to look at the data that we have, census data, the Barringer data that you've got. But when we have declining enrollment and we don't put every effort forward to make sure that we get as much of the capture rate that we can, it means less funding. Less funding means a lot of things. We have less students. We don't need as many buildings. We don't need as many teachers. We don't need a lot of things. So to sit back and become complacent and say, I think we're doing a good job, I'm not certain that we want to do that. I think we always want to strive for better. 1% goal so far is good. I think it's a start. I get it. Once we get to that point, though, I'm hoping that we can advance a little bit sooner. So it's important for us to realize that if we don't have another mechanism to offset revenue decrease because of declining enrollment, whether it be international ed or whatever the case might be, the efforts and the strategies need to make sure that we get as many of those kids that are in our areas into our buildings so that we can continue to drive the good educational programs that we have and meet the needs of our communities. So I think I'm happy with where we are so far. It doesn't necessarily meet the requirement on the motion, and I'll speak to that after when you're going to allow those questions. But I challenge us as individual trustees to make sure that we look at opportunities for us to get more than what we've got, push the envelope on the 1% down the road, and realize that capture rate is very important based on our revenue scheme. So,
Thank you. That's a broken record I don't mind hearing. Thank you. Mr. Bill McPherson.
I have this vision of equipping our principals with butterfly nets and telling them about problem playgrounds and capture them that way. But anyways, we've been receiving kindergarten capture rates for 8-10 years. Have we ever shared this information with the principals that it can be incorporated into their school success strategies? Like, would a principal be aware of the fact that they got 32% of potential kindergarten registrations last year? Or, like, are we passing this information on to the people that are actually in those chairs devising these school success plans? And through the chair, and a question.
It is. I'm going to let the director just address it, but keep in mind where I'm going with this in terms of motion. Okay.
We have not, in a systematic way, shared capture rates with our individual school capture rates with our principals. But as you know, on the other end, I visit schools, and the principals are very quick to tell me how many students they have registered to attend their kindergarten program. Now, they may not be appreciative of the what percentage that represents in their local community, but they're very excited with regard to the registration number that they have, and they're always very pleased and proud to let me know that it's increased, or we've new families moving in, etc. So they do pay attention to the number, but I can't say that we have systematically shared the capture rate. I think in that regard we're in our infancy, but as Superintendent Dawes says, we're certainly will be moving in that direction.
Okay, actually you've led me into the second part that I want to get into. I think we've had a good discussion on this. As a Board of Trustees, when we pass a motion, it is basically our assumption that the motion, when the report comes, will address what is in the motion. And we've had a lot of conversation around this, and as you can see, when we're talking about addressing individual schools. So let me read the original motion, then I want to open that up to discussion as to where we need to go with this. So the original motion was, whereas the Upper Canada District School Board has the mandate and capacity to capture all students, and whereas the Upper Canada District School Board provides excellent programming in all schools, be it resolved that the director devise a strategy by the second meeting in January 2015 for increasing the capture rate for each school, and that this goal be included in the school's success plans. So that was the original motion, and as I said, it's generated a lot of discussion. The report obviously did not address the individual schools. So because of that, what we have to do as a Board of Trustees, if we agree, is we have to rescind that motion and then move forward from there. So I need, if we're going to do, I need a mover of floors. And the,
Chair.
Yes, go ahead, Trustee McAllister.
Just, excuse me, but I certainly agree with the your focus on the intent of the original motion.
Yes.
But just because the report did not address one part of the motion does not mean that we should rescind it. My further comment is that I like the 4 strategies, especially numbers 3 and 4, because they are most pertinent.
Well, Trustee McAllister, can I just stop you for a second? Because what I want to do is I want to put it on the floor, and then we'll open it up for discussion, and that'll allow you to do it at that point. Are you okay with that? So I need to put it on, I need to put it on the floor first to open the discussion.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So the motion is that the Committee of the Whole recommend the Upper Canada District School Board rescind the motion, the following motion as carried. So I've read the motion, moved by Trustee McDonald, seconded by Trustee Bill McPherson. So it's now on the floor, so I'm going to turn it over to the mover first, and then I'll come back to you, Trustee McAllister. So, Trustee McDonald.
Thank you. So I alluded to some information in my previous diatribe. And the reason I'm moving this and moving forward is that I realize, and I've made other comments before, we've got to move in simple steps. We're not going to boil the ocean here tonight. We are going to get to that point, and I want to bring trustees back to the next level driven piece. When we approved the next level driven document, there were 4 particular areas in capture and retention rate, and it's in there. It addresses the information that we're looking for, and the report addresses it as well, because you've given us by family, you've given it to us by school and by family. The 4 key areas on capture rate was percentage of students entering our schools at kindergarten for a board year multi-data, percentage of students entering our schools at grade 9 for board year multi-data, percentage of students entering our schools at kindergarten by school multi-year data, and percentage of students entering our schools at grade 9. So we've got those particular pieces that are being performed for us. It's important, and Director Patterson alluded to the fact that we haven't shared this with principals before, and so I think from our standpoint is we need to make sure that we start to move in a direction, and 1% growth is moving in a direction. If we take the pendulum and switch it to the other way, we are going to create some turmoil potentially. And as much as I think it's important for our principals to have an understanding and awareness, we also need to make sure that we do focus on some things. In our next level driven accountability framework, there are a multitude of pieces that we need to be aware of. Capture rate is an important piece, and I harp on it. You're not going to get me to say it's not important, but we can't focus on it. And I'm certainly aware of that, and over my conversations over the last couple of months really have become more reliant on that information as well, to make sure that I pay attention to more than just one particular area. So I think it's important for us to rescind the original motion so that we are aligned with the information that staff have provided to us. We are still meeting our requirements on next level driven document, and we're still getting the information and yet moving forward. So it's not quite exactly what we looked for with the original motion, but I'm content that the data that's provided and the recommendations and the strategies that are being provided is going to start to achieve us that. We can revisit this as we move forward, but I think it's important to make sure that we align our process that we're doing now. So it's important for us to rescind that original motion.
Trustee McAllister.
I have no idea why we are rescinding the motion as opposed to referring it back. Could someone explain that to me, please?
Trustee McDonald?
Well, Trustee McAllister, I think it's important that if we refer it back, what would we refer back? Our original motion was to ask for the data by the January meeting on a school-by-school basis. And we certainly are at a point where we don't have the capabilities to be able to perform that. And in order for us to do it on a school-by-school basis, we would have to reevaluate many things, and the impact is on a multitude of deliverables from our schools. I think what administration has provided to us right now aligns with the next level driven document and still is moving the target forward a little bit slower than we potentially anticipated perhaps, but it is setting the agenda so that we have some potential gain for a 1% increase. That and the reason for the rescinding of the motion is to make sure that we are aligned with the report of the administration and not leaving a motion in limbo that has never been addressed.
Trustee Bill McPherson.
I agree with what David's saying. I'm going to refer back to the analogy of as trustees, we're in charge of the forest, but we're not in charge of the individual trees. And I think if you read this original motion, it would be putting us in charge of the individual trees to a degree. I think the information in the report is valuable. It creates the next level of discussion. But I think we need to align the motion with what has occurred here tonight and then move on to the next level. And if we're going to be talking about each individual schools and getting a success plan for that, that's something that has to be developed at the local level. And so I agree with rescinding the motion. And
Trustee Cram?
I'm having some difficulty with it. I'm not opposed to rescinding the motion, but I have some what word can I use? Thoughts that if we rescind the motion, it's sort of going to sit by the wayside, and I'd rather get some assurances that the information contained would be shared with principals, and perhaps come back to us with what the original intent was in January or February of 2016. That's where my difficulty is. So I'm leaving that with the chair, I suppose.
Just a point of clarification, we can deal with the rescinding of the motion and then look at the motion to certainly address that piece. So that the information is here, now we're connecting the links. It wasn't shared, now we're asking it to be shared.
So we'll address the rescinding of the motion and then address a new motion.
Okay, I'll wait for a few minutes and see what happens.
Okay. Any other comments? Trustee McAllister?
Yes, Chair. Essentially, this report promotes an increase of 1%, and it includes 4 strategies, all of which I agree with, especially number 3 and 4. And I think they are all valid in light of the motion which was initially passed. So I'm voting against rescinding. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments, questions?
I have a question for Phil, through you, Chair. You mentioned briefly that we need to have 3 years worth of data to see a trend. Is that correct?
Through you, Chair. In my experience, yes, a minimum of 3 years I think is valuable to be able to begin to determine trends. Yeah, it's helpful. Thank you.
So, to me, I think we'd be putting our principals in a bad light if we didn't have that data to just suggest an overall 1% increase. Is that not correct?
Through you, Chair. The 1% increase we're suggesting would be on a system-wide basis.
Okay.
We haven't suggested that we would articulate to the schools that they each have a 1% increase goal. How the 1% as a system would play out would require deviations, quite certainly, between our respective schools. So, quite frankly, what we're suggesting is that we don't think our schools are prepared quite yet to actually develop their own goals because they haven't received this kind of information previously, and because, again, we've been asking them to focus so strongly on literacy and numeracy goals.
Okay. Okay, before I call, I'm going to call the question. I think one thing I do want to make clear before I put this motion forward, I will not be getting in the habit of looking at a motion and then trying to match it to what the report was. This is a unique situation that I do not see occurring very often, if ever again. We have to be very clear in terms of the motions that we put forward. However, as a Board of Trustees, when we put a motion forward, the motion stands. And when we ask for, that's what we will expect to get back in return. So the onus is on us to make sure that the motion is certainly workable and make sure that it's clear. So I say that this is not something we'll get in the habit of doing. However, this is a unique situation, and so what I'm going to do is call the motion to rescind, and then we can go to the next step if we need to. So the motion that I have before me, moved by Trustee McDonald, seconded by Trustee Bill McPherson, is that the Committee of the Whole recommend Upper Canada District School Board rescind the following motion as carried September 24th. And I'll read it one more time. Whereas the Upper Canada District School Board has the mandate and capability to capture all students, and whereas the Upper Canada District School Board provide excellent programming in all schools, be it resolved that the Director devise a strategy by the second meeting in January 2015 for the increasing capture rate of each school, and that this goal be included in the school success plans. I'll ask you to cast your votes, please.
Point of order, Chair.
Yes?
Is that not a new motion?
No,
I thought the motion was to rescind.
I am rescinding. I just read what we're rescinding.
Okay, thank you.
I just read, no, Trustee McAllister, that's the motion that was before us, and that's the one we were rescinding. That's why I read it again. Okay? Cast your votes, please. And that carries with one opposed. Thank you very much. I'll open up the discussion now as to where we want to go with this. Trustee Cram, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chair. I have a motion looking for a seconder. That the Board of Trustees request the Director to share the present capture rate with principals of schools and request that principals beginning in September of 2015 build into their success plan strategies to increase their capture rate.
Do I have a seconder for that motion?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Trustee McAllister. And we'll just get the motion here one more time, and I'll open it up for discussion. So the motion that I have before me, that is moved by Trustee Cram and seconded by Trustee John McAllister, is that the Board of Trustees request the Director to share the present capture rate with principals of schools and request that principals bring to the September 2015 request that principals beginning September 2015 build into their success plan strategies to increase their capture rate. Comments? Discussion? Trustee Bill McPherson?
I'd like to amend the motion.
To?
The Director develop a process to share this information. Because as Charlotte said, they have never seen these before. And I think we're stepping up pretty close to that gray line when we're directing administration how to do their job.
Okay, so we have an amendment before us.
What's the amendment again?
I'm going to read the thing that the Board of Trustees requests the director to develop a process to share the present capture rate with principals of schools, and request that principals begin September 2015 building into their success plan strategies to increase their capture rate. So right now the discussion is on the amendment, which is that the director develop a process. Comments? Trustee Armour?
Again, back.
Get a seconder first, just for a point.
Oh, I need a seconder for the amendment? Yes, sorry. Trustee Wendy McPherson, sorry. Trustee Armour?
I want to point out Phil's point. If we're going to share information or direct the director, we need to have we have to have the data to do it. It's not fair to put this on our principals without that third year. I think it's good that we're talking about it, but I just don't think we have trends and we don't have the right data right now to do that. It's too soon.
Comments? Trustee Wendy McPherson?
Through you, Chair, the motion, it's reading to how to have, for them to have some sort of plan in works of how they're going to reach out to the community, to parents with children, to try and get them in to our schools.
The motion, no, that's not the motion. The motion is to develop with the amendment, to develop a process of sharing the capture rates with principals so they can use that capture rate information to come up with a plan to increase capture rate. The point that Trustee Armour is making right now goes to a conversation that was earlier with the Superintendent Dawes in terms of having 3 years to get a trend. So basically saying that in 2015 would not give us that third-year trend. Trustee McDonald?
Just to the amendment on the process, I don't know that we need to develop a process. I think the process is sharing the data. I don't know how else that is. I mean, we have it readily available. They have access to a lot of information, and we just make sure that we hit send. So I'll vote against the amendment to develop a process, and then we can speak to the original motion after.
Any other comments strictly on the amendment? Okay.
Yes, Chair, I oppose the amendment.
Okay, I'm going to call the vote on it in a second. Any more comments or discussions? Okay, so we'll call the vote. This is on the amendment only, and the amendment is the addition of to develop a process. Cast your votes, please. And they are 2 in favor and the rest are opposed. So the amendment does not carry. Go back to the original motion. I'm being patient. There it is right there. That the Board of Trustees request the director to share the present capture rate with principals of schools and request that principals beginning September 2015 build into their success plan strategies to increase their capture rate. Comments or questions on that motion?
Through your chair, maybe I'd just like to hear from the director, what are the pros and cons of sharing with the principals? And try to include it into their success plans too, because that becomes somewhat of a formal process, if I use the word process.
Through you, Chair, I think that there are a couple of challenges here, but I think they're not insurmountable. And one of them is, as Superintendent Dawes indicated, we have data from 1 year. So a capture rate might be 44%. So that's not a trend. So what does the principal do with that? That might be, if it was in a particular area of our board, that would be an excellent result. In another area of our board, it would be a disappointing result. So I think there needs to be more information provided to the principals beyond that one number. The other piece is I can see the reference to request that principals beginning September 2015 build into their school success plans strategies to increase their capture rate. So if I read that, I'm reading that over the course of next year, they're going to be learning more, understanding more about capture rate, and building strategies into their school success plan. That might be the way I would interpret that phrase. Perhaps you mean effective September 2015, there should be strategies in the school success plan that, that lead to an increase in capture rate. So from that point of view, I think there may be a little bit of gray there, and I guess the administration would like to understand better what your desire is there.
And that's the clarity I think that we're asking for here. So Trustee Cram, you are, help us get this motion so it's clear. We're saying that, you're saying that you want the capture rate shared with principals?
Correct.
Beginning September 2015 and build into their success plan strategies to increase the capture rate. Are you saying that once they get that, you expect to see a strategy in place immediately, or help us clarify this motion?
I debated at the beginning whether to even include something along the lines of for those schools that were under 50%. I was debating all of that kind of stuff to do that, but then I go back to Trustee McDonald's comments that we can always be looking for improvement everywhere, even if we're at 84%. We could be looking for 85%. I would not be adverse to having the change made to say they start looking, start developing over the 2015 year strategies to increase their capture rate, because I do believe that getting the data between now and June and then having to do a strategy over the summer holidays, for example, is probably a bit too much, particularly when they could wait till January to find out how many kindergarten kids they got coming in and so on. So I wouldn't be adverse to that kind of thing. I just think we need to start getting some strategies in as quickly as we can. If that helps, Director.
So are you amending your original motion then?
I'm looking for help in wording, I suppose, into that kind of a concept. That was my intent with beginning in September of 2015, but I just to continue the discussion, if we look at attempting to do better but having more data, meeting kind of a midpoint here, I think it's important that we share the data. Absolutely. I think it's important for people to start thinking about capture rate. There's a recommendation or a goal, I guess is how it's identified, of a 1% growth. So maybe we look at language along the lines of sharing the data with schools, developing ideas, strategies, whatever the case might be, to support our 1% system goal. We review it again next year. We set a timeline to review it next year. And reevaluate. The 1% is for the next year, is what we're looking at, right? Let's try and do it in small chunks, 1 year at a time. See where we got, how effective was it, based on the strategies that we have. Did we get what we were looking for? And then we can have another fulsome discussion around capture rate and whether we get a little bit more detailed. So supporting the 1%, I mean, we're looking for growth, supporting the 1% in principle. I mean, it's not going to happen on its own. Some strategies are going to be important, but it's going to be important to have principals having part of that conversation with their community. So it leads to this, but it's not directly tied into the school success plans yet.
Chair.
Trustee McAllister.
It seems to me that this, I support the original motion of 1%. And I think we are making this more complicated than it should be. Because if I were a principal of an individual school, I would know almost as a gut instinct whether that target rate should be lesser or more or equal to what it is now. And the question then resides with the principal and his or her staff as to how to proceed. with the assistance of the director and her team.
Thank you. I tend to agree that we need to not make this complex, but make it manageable and workable. Trustee Bill McPherson?
Okay, I'll toss a fly into the ointment here. What do we do about board practices?
What, sorry?
I'll get to that in a minute. Board practices, procedures that allow students to go across boundary. I won't name the schools, but I'm aware of one school that has a 39% capture rate. Another school is 97%, and I know for a fact that somewhere between 35 and 40% of the students in that school are actually cross boundary. We have a process set up for parents to register their children in the school of choice outside of their catchment zone. And it happens if a school gets a bad rap or a bad reputation. We know that happens from time to time. How do you expect a school that's got a vast number of students going cross boundary to develop a process to, like, should we tighten that process? And that's a board-wide practice. And as soon as they get the classroom seat, well, then they start looking for transportation. We've got a policy for empty seats in school buses. So if the parents are willing to go through the process, they get the seat in the classroom, they get the seat in the bus, and guess what? There's 25 kids going to a school that's not their designated school. So is part of this whole process going to be looking at system processes and procedures and doing something, because the exception becomes a reality in this case. You make an exception for one, then the kid across the street wants the same one. And so it's not just programming, it's sometimes what we do to keep students in the Upper Canada School Board. Maybe I'm off topic on this motion.
You're off topic, obviously, in terms of the amendment and the motion. However, what
Okay,
you're
I
talking
withdraw.
about, but what you're talking about is something that maybe we as a board need to talk about in the future or the near future to help.
I apologize.
No, there is a relationship to it. I mean, we're passing responsibility over to administration and saying fix this problem, whereas we as a board of trustees could well, by looking at some of the policies that we have, perhaps change the entire picture. Different discussion, but I see how it does fit in. Okay, Trustee Kramer.
Just a question, Chair, to the Director. Would changing the motion to September of 2016 help a little bit? So you've got the 1% over the year and then give principals time to develop their plan?
Through you, Chair, I think that would be a good suggestion. When I was looking at the motion, I was wondering if we could reference the 2015-16 school year, so that it becomes the work of the principals over the next year, and the work is better informed because, we'll then have another year of data to share with them. So that helps to identify the trend and assesses the revitalization of the effectiveness of our kindergarten registration program this year, et cetera. So whether you want to reference effective or beginning September 2016 or school year 2015-16, I think that might be helpful.
To you, Chair, looking at my seconder, see if he would accept that.
Before we do that, I'm going to turn it over to Trustee Wendy. You're fine?
Thank you.
Trustee McDonald?
No, I was good,
Okay.
but John's the seconder, I believe.
Well, John, you're the seconder on that, but right now we've had another amendment, so I think we have to address the amendment first. You guys are really testing what I've learned lately, haven't you? Okay, so we have an amendment to the original motion to develop strategies to support our 1% system goals to increase capture rate. So the 1% has been added in there. Comments and questions in terms of adding that 1% system goal to the original?
No, was it to change the date to the 2016 as well?
Change the date.
To change the 1% and the date changes.
Well, that was another amendment over and above.
You can, if you're going to amend the original motion, you can put it together.
Okay, well, I will, okay. So can we amend? Okay, so let me read the amended motion. That the Board of Trustees request the director to share the present capture rate with principals of schools and request that the principal begin September 2016 to develop strategies to support our 1% system goal to increase the capture rate.
I think the intent was
Order, Chair.
to begin to work on the 1%, but in 2015, but build it into the school success plans for September 2016.
That's correct.
Trustee McAllister and then Trustee McPherson.
I believe I have to give my consent to the amendment to the amendment.
Well, we've combined two amendments. I know.
In any case, I do agree.
You know, I love you. Thank you.
Why does he look up in the side?
Well, I know he's up there somewhere. Okay, so help me out here. So we've gone back now to September 2015.
2016.
Okay, so are we beginning, it's this 2015-2016 school year? Is that what we're talking about?
No, 16, 17.
16, 17.
So,
2021.
Talking about 1% for September of 2015, over that school year, and then building into the success plan, so capture from there on, correct?
So there's two processes that we can have, is we can use this amendment to vote on it, and then the original motion becomes redundant, or we vote on the original motion, turn it down, and then come up with the amended motion. There's two schools of thought you can approach to it.
Do you have the, I'm going to vote on the original amendment, and then we will come back to the amended.
Or you can incorporate, if the mover and the seconder agree, you can incorporate them, can you not?
Technically, no.
Let's do it the simple way.
If it's a friendly amendment, you can.
Yeah.
Lisa, is this the original?
Motion number 3 is the original.
Oh, motion number 3. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to call the original motion. The original motion is that the Board of Trustees, oops, you moved it, where'd it go? Okay. That the Board of Trustees request the director to develop a process to share the present capture rate with principals of schools and request that the principal begin September 2015 built into their success plan strategies to increase the capture rate. You defeated that one?
Yes.
We did, yeah. That one. It's this one.
Let me try this one.
Motion number 2.
Motion number, where'd it go?
It's right here.
Where? Oh. Okay, this is the motion, that the Board of Trustees request that the director to share the present capture rate with principals of schools, and request that the principal beginning September 2015 build into their success plan strategies to increase their capture rate. That was moved by Trustee Cram, seconded by Trustee John McAllister. I'll ask you to cast your votes on that, please.
Question on procedures?
I just got
Chair?
one.
Yes.
There is no other, are you looking at an amendment after that? Or
Well,
another motion?
We do the amendment first.
Because you can't, you can't,
Which is what I was trying to, but we don't have a second.
What should happen is you vote on the amendment, the original becomes
where was
redundant.
the amendment?
Right here.
1%.
I'm afraid of losing the motion is what I'm.
We're not- Okay.
So you deal with the amendment and then the original.
And we need to,
Is this,
we need to finalize this amendment first. This amendment's not finalized yet.
this is the second amendment. We combine the two amendments together?
1%, 2015.
You need a seconder for that.
Okay, I have David McDonald who has,
But you need to make sure that this is the amendment, because you're trying to do 2 amendments here in one, I
all
think.
right, let me read this one out. I've got one that's moved by Trustee McDonald. I don't have a seconder on it yet, but I'll read it out. The Board of Trustees request the director to share the present capture rate with principals of schools and request that the principal beginning September 2015 to develop strategies to support our 1% system goal to increase their capture rate and build into their success plan.
This and
I'll second that.
No, the motion was to work towards approving or implementing the 1%
Good thing this is
increase in
important.
capture rate and build in the school success plans for September 2016.
And the amendment.
It's one amendment.
Yeah.
That's better.
Yeah.
Is this the one?
Yeah.
I need a seconder on that?
I will second that.
If my seconder will agree to a friendly amendment, we can do it all in one motion and make this the original motion?
I fully agree.
Trustee McPherson?
I'll leave in a few minutes after I say this because you're going to get. I am uncomfortable using the term capture rate. Can we not amend the motion to say kindergarten enrollment rate anywhere we're saying capture rate?
Well, the problem with that is that the capture, it's not just kindergarten, it's also your 6 to 7, and it's high school.
7 to 9.
There's different entry points on it.
Because, okay, I guess it'll be an in-house understanding then.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so, Trustee Cram, explain that again to me, what it is you want to do here?
The amended motion still takes the idea of the original motion. So if my seconder agrees, we can incorporate those words in the original motion because it'll be a friendly amendment. Therefore, it takes the place of the entire motion. You only have to vote once. Because you can incorporate the words right into that motion.
Trustee McAllister, you're the seconder on that?
I most certainly agree.
Thank you.
Point of clarification. For ease of purpose, let's do it. However, if there's motions on the floor, we have to address the motions on the floor.
Yep.
And so they have to be dealt with and discharged.
Okay.
So we're getting too convoluted, so let's just throw rules out the window and we're all going to achieve what I think we're trying to achieve.
Yep.
So let's do that. But
So do I have the motion that has now got a friendly?
It's up on the screen, you might want to take a quadruple look there.
Unless I'm in civics tonight.
Okay. Trustees requested.
About 2 after 2015.
Percentage isn't in there yet.
Well,
Okay.
that's the original motion.
Yeah, but the 1% is in there. 'cause
Oh,
it's
there it
on the
is.
other side.
All right, so here we go. Moved by Trustee McDonald.
no, it's Cram McAllister. That's your friendly amendment.
Moved by Trustee Cram, seconded by Trustee McAllister, that the Board of Trustees request the Director to share the present capture rate with
Principals of the schools.
principals of the schools and request that principals begin September 2015 to develop strategies to support our 1% system goal to increase the capture rate and to build their success plan September 2016.
Okay. They've beaten us into submissions.
And build strategies into the success plan.
And build strategies.
Build strategies into their school success plans that we're adding in there?
Yeah.
No, that was the previous board.
Can we edit the tape after?
Well,
My only other question is, it says to increase their capture rate. So it's a 1% system goal. It's the capture rate. Not their capture rate, but the capture rate. Lovely. Thank you.
We have the attempt.
I'm going to ask you to cast your vote. Oh, my computer just died.
I hope everybody voted for it.
Pardon me? I just got checked out of my computer. Hang on. Okay. I'm not going to believe this. Unanimous. Oh, Trustee Garrow? Unanimous. I thank every one of you. Moving on. And, you know, we have Dr. David Armstrong and Dr. Allison Inglis. I applaud you. You've been here since the very beginning. I think I need you right now. I'm going to ask you to come forward and present to us the Community SPIRR Protocol, Suicide Prevention, Intervention, and Risk Review Protocol. And thank you so much, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Chair McMillan, if I could just start.
You certainly can.
Yeah, so thank you, Chair and trustees. As you are aware, that youth suicide is a complex and an emotionally charged matter. And sadly, it is the second leading cause of death amongst youth. Given this reality, Lanark, Leeds, and Granville, Prescott Russell, Cornwall, Stormont, Glengarry, and the school boards, Upper Canada School Board, and our co-terminus board responded as one community of care. Through this truly collaborative effort, which spanned a few years, a community suicide prevention and intervention risk protocol was developed, and it's in the which you have on your agenda, and it was developed for students right across our geographic area. The protocol identifies 3 components to assist schools and school board staff in support of our vulnerable students. To begin, the protocol defines a clear and consistent pathway when schools and staff become aware of suicide ideation or behavior. Secondly, the protocol provides consistent and collaborative steps to link students who pose risk with our community partners. And thirdly, the protocol defines how agencies, how schools, how hospitals will work together to provide the supports, provide the confidentiality required for students in crisis, and ensure the supports are in place for when the students return back to school. Honoring the collaborative process and working with a cross-section of partners, including the Catholic Board, Children's Mental Health of Leeds and Grenville, Open Doors of Lanark, Cornwall Hospital, Stormont, Glengarry and Dundas, or Stormont, Dundas and Glengarry, the Children's Aid Societies, the Community Police Services, CHIO, Hotel Dieu, and hospitals throughout the region. The result is a comprehensive plan and risk review tool for SPEAR, or suicide prevention, training, intervention, and post-prevention. Dr. David Armstrong and Dr. Alison English were instrumental right from the very beginning in the creation of this protocol, and Dr. English and Dr. Armstrong are no strangers to any of you. They're our chief psychologists, as well as they co-lead our mental health, our co-leads in mental health. We'll turn it over to them, and they're going to provide an overview for you of the protocol.
Sure. So what you have in front of you there is really just the mechanics, the intervention part of it. There's a few paragraphs, a few pages devoted to some prevention, some post-vention. But overall, the focus of our work is ensuring we don't have to use this protocol, we don't get here in the first place, okay? And the way we do that, for example, the way schools already do that is everywhere from resiliency and character ed, the character always, and school-to-school coping development, identification of risks and, of strengths, and recreation opportunities within the schools to plug kids in there. Mental health literacy, for example, the My Health Magazine campaign that we're doing. Extra support during the higher risk transitions of grade 7, grade 9 with the LINK crew, and availability of knowledgeable staff, for example, our CYWs or SSCs, in developing the linkages to our community partners. Specifically for suicide development and prevention, we're looking specifically at substance abuse and depression as contributing to increasing the suicide risks. And for that, as you'll see in that protocol there's going to be staff development and training over universal training for everyone within the school about how to recognize suicide risk and ask the questions, parent and guardian information sessions, student education regarding suicide and risks, prevention strategies, and including the use of speakers, but the targeted use of speakers. Sometimes when we invite speakers into a school, it can hit a little too close home for some of our kids. Stories that are too personal, sensationalized, they can actually increase the risk in some children. And so we're rolling out a decision-making tool for principals around that to help them make informed choices when they are recruiting speakers to galvanize kids towards mental health and coping resources. And also, in prevention, when we're trying to prevent suicide, we try and decrease the risk of contagion. And contagion happens when there's, for example, one tragic event that perhaps receives a lot of attention, and there's an increased likelihood of further suicides happening after that. So how we handle that initial suicide, that's also a focus of the work and in that suicide protocol. It's a three-stage process, the actual intervention piece itself. So what I just want you to understand is this is a large process of which this intervention piece, it's only a very small piece actually, but we want to be able to increase our reliability in which we do it and increase the clarity of language that both our community partners and ourselves are using, the consistency. What we have here, so there's three stages in this process. Stage one is really, and I'll just kind of lead you through it there. Stage one is you're a teacher in a building, you're a custodian in a building, you're a bus driver. And they're recognizing what a risk or an invitation to talk about something might be. This might be changes in thoughts or actions or feelings, it might be withdrawal, it might be thoughts like, I can't do anything right, I can't get anything. It's particularly changes in these, increases in crying, anger, worry, lack of interest, and appearance. And so it's the recognition, but secondly, it's the asking, are you having thoughts of suicide? And then seeking assistance of a trained kind of intervener, or what we call assist-trained staff in these buildings, and staying with that individual. That's really that first stage. It's the first person kind of on scene, first responder. What are we doing to recognize the indicators and asking the child, is there a risk, do you feel like committing suicide? Are you thinking about suicide? Using language like that. In the second stage, this is where the handoff comes. So when we say that first stage, that person, the first on scene, is going to seek assistance, they're going to stay with the child, the youth, until whether an assist-trained staff, so someone trained in suicide intervention. Our goal is to have 2 in every secondary school, 1 in every elementary school. They can assist, or it could be a regional staff member like our SSCs. That SSC or that assist trained staff is then going to assess the risk, and they're going to work on kind of a safety plan with that child, or a safe for now plan. If the risk is high, we know that's perhaps we need to contain that risk a little more. That might be things like urgent care clinics or emergency room or a crisis number. If the risk is fairly low, we know that we can send them home with some resources, and then we can follow up with referral to a community mental health or addictions agency. Part of that section 2 is also contacting the parents or guardian or caregiver and letting them know, what's going on, and having them either come to the school or meet so that we can discuss services, because they're going to be the champion for this kid, or we want to identify a champion for this kid that's going to help them initiate that safe plan. It's going to monitor, and is also going to facilitate them seeking the service. And finally, the final step of that stage 2 is connecting with a board kind of representative, whether it be a chief psychologist or an SSC, basically to talk about what happened and is that a successful kind of resolution to the case. So that's, again, now we have the students who could be at a hospital, could be going home with a few resources, a kid's help phone or a local hospital number, and it could be a referral to Children's Mental Health. So depending on the level of risk, that's what kind of happened at level 2, and we proceed on to level 3. For those children who were assessed to be, at a moderate or higher risk, there's going to be follow-up for that child, and follow-up that's kind of prompted in the forms we're actually filling out. So that could be in a week or 2 weeks. If the child's admitted to hospital, it may be before they actually come back and facilitated by one of our mental health and addiction nurses. And what we want to do at that stage 3 is ensure that every child has that follow-up that is at risk. And we want to check and see, was there follow-through, or was that plan effective for them, or are they still feeling the same way, in which case something is to change. Are there accommodations, interventions, things we can do, supports at the school that we could offer and facilitate that transition? And finally, if they are away, helping them, what is their preferred method to being back in class? They might want to talk about, how am I going to explain where I've been to people, that sort of thing. So that's what the 3-stage process really is first of all, the individual, an individual within a school recognizing, secondly, an assist-trained staff member doing a suicide risk assessment and providing some intervention or safe for now plan, and the stage 3 is kind of the follow-up of that plan. Actually, I'll hand it back over to Susan at this point.
So there are a number of the partners out there. As you can see, there are 25 partners or more right across our geographic district that were involved in putting this together. There's a signing ceremony for the protocol on March 31st at 5 o'clock at North Grenville Complex, where all the partners will be coming to sign the protocol that we've put into place. Thank you, Chair.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation. Do we have any comments or questions?
Yes, Chair, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Trustee McAllister.
I note that, to me, this is a very, very important protocol. It is a collaborative response for children in crisis across all boundaries, be they religious, linguistic, racial, etc. And I applaud the work that Dr. Inglis and Dr. Armstrong and you, Superintendent Edwards, and everybody else who is involved. The work that you have done, I think, is really important. I guess I have really 2 questions. One, what percentage of your effort will be applied to Tier 1, 2, and 3 interventions? And I guess my second question is, how do you actualize this protocol, not for our staffs in schools, but for all staffs across the whole jurisdiction?
Pardon me? You say you've got 2 questions, so we'll go with the first question.
So what percentage of our efforts are geared towards each individual level?
Right.
That's a wonderful question. I think that's a wonderful question. I'm not sure I really have an answer on that one. My initial reaction is it really depends on what role you're playing kind of within the board. So for example, Dr. Inglis and I as mental health leaders, I anticipate beyond the training part of it in the actual intervention itself, are then going to be pulling more on what's the overall board focus or strategy for depression, anxiety, substance abuse, etc., and more at that kind of preventative level. Whereas if you're, for example, a special services coordinator with our board or CYW, their time is going to be spent a little more on the intervention and the crisis prevention. Hopefully the work that we do at the level 1 is going to reduce the work we need at the tier 3. It's a wonderful question though.
Thank you. Trustee McAllister, second question.
How do we actualize the protocol, not only for our staffs in schools and the staffs across the whole jurisdiction? In other words, PD, etc. What are we going to do on that?
Through you, Chair. I'll answer the second part of that first, because we just discussed that the other day with the partners up there with their staff as well. So members of the sort of the collaborative team that really put it together from our agencies as well as some school board staff have invited ourselves and have been requested to come to some hospitals to help with their emergency staff, to introduce them to the protocol, and with the 25 agencies around. So, Trustee McAllister, you're asking another good question. The communication part of that, and the communication protocol, not only within our own staff, but also within the agencies out there in our hospitals and our communities out there is the next part of the work, if you like.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Well, I thank you so much for A, your patience, but B, for the report. Incredibly valuable to us. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Not fair.
Who's being foolish there?
Although it feels like fair.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to the next item. This is a standing item, which is a status update, and then there's obviously more to it. Selecting and the recruitment for Director of Education. Just an update, and then I'll get into the actual policies that we need to talk about. Monday of this week, actually last week I sat down with Brad Notman, and we developed a RFP process which was sent out to 3 companies. That one was recommended by Michael Barrett of OSPA and has been used by several boards that focus on this. Another was a group called the Phelps Group, which had contacted me, and the third group, there's 3 titles. Anyways, the process went out Monday. RFP process outlines exactly what we're looking for, and they have 15 days to send back to us the information that we have requested. At the end of 15 days, then what we will do is, with my executive, I'll sit down with Brad. There's a rating scale that we follow. Obviously, what it is they can do for us is critical. What they're charging is critical. So there's a lot of factors that will come into this, and then we will decide on one that we will use to guide us through the process. The process of selecting a director is a very detailed process. It's not something that just happens. This company, this person, whoever it is that we hire from this company will come in and help get a good handle on what this board is all about, and then they will help us shape our vision, and from the vision we will create the type of director that we're looking for. So it's a long process that involves all of us. The final decision for the director is our decision, Board of Trustees. Okay? So having said all of that, that's the update where we are right now. So we're waiting 15 days for the RFP process to take place, or for its duration. What I mentioned last time I spoke to you, that we have draft policies that I had mentioned. One is the role of the director, one is the role of the Board of Trustees, and the other is the recruitment and selection process that we would go through. These policies right now are in draft state, and in an effort to make the process transparent and predictable, the board should consider adopting these policies. And so what I would like to do really is, I'm sure we've all had a chance to take a good look at them, at least I hope you have. If there are any questions, comments, especially let's take a look at the recruitment and selection, because that's really the process. The other ones are pretty much described in the Education Act.
Chair?
Yes? Go ahead.
Are you asking for comments with regard to the draft policy at this point?
I'm going to actually ask for a motion to move them, but right now, I was just, if there's any questions.
Well, I guess my concern is with 6.2.
Is this on the selection process?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, the draft policy, which is in front of us. 6.2 reads that the chair of the board, with the assistance of legal counsel, will negotiate on behalf of the board with the selected candidate a draft employment contract. I would suggest, Chair, that the onus is too harsh in terms of the burden on the chair. It should be the chair plus 2 trustees.
Trustee McDonald?
Trustee McAllister, I disagree. I think the faith and confidence that we put into our chair is to act on behalf of the board. And it's clearly spelled out that the chair will be working with the assistance of legal counsel. And legal counsel, in my view, would be the body that would ensure that we meet all legislative and legal requirements. At the end of the day, the board does approve the contract, but the negotiation process is best suited with the chair, and having more trustees involved really it gets into a situation where you've got a new potential employee facing down the barrel of three trustees, which you want the process to be fair to that individual and not feel that they are being unduly put into a process.
Trustee Cram?
I choose to disagree, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Just a question, Chair. Are you proposing that one motion to approve all three drafts, or are you going to split them into each particular one?
Each one will be approved separately.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Questions? If there are not, I'd like to just move the motions, but I'll need people to move it for me. The first one is that the Upper Canada, that the Committee of the Whole recommend the Upper Canada District School Board approve the new policy recruitment and I'll start with this one. Recruitment and selection of the director as submitted to the Committee of the Whole March the 11th, 2015. Do I have a mover? Trustee Richards? Trustee McDonald? And I'll ask you to cast your votes on that one, please. What else? And Trustee Cram?
Yes.
Favor? That carries with one opposed. The second is the Committee of the Whole recommend the Upper Canada District School Board approve the new policy role of a Board of Trustees as submitted to the Committee of the Whole March 11, 2015. Moved by Trustee Garrow, seconded by Trustee Wendy McPherson. Cast your votes, please. And that carries with one opposed. Abstain is opposed. Thank you. And the third is that the Committee of the Whole recommend the Upper Canada District School Board approve the new policy role of the Director of Education as submitted to the Committee of the Whole March 11, 2015. Cast your votes, please. Pardon me? It moved by Trustee McDonald, seconded by Trustee Garrow. My apologies. Cast your vote, please. And that carries unanimously. Thank you so much. I need a motion to move the Committee of the Whole into the regular board. Moved by Trustee Armour, seconded by Trustee Cram. Cast your votes, please. And that carries. Thank you very much. Report from Private Session Committee of the Whole, February 25th, 2015. At the Private Session Committee of the Whole, February 25th, 2015, one property matter was discussed, and the following recommendation was brought to board. It's a motion that I need. It's that the Upper Canada District School Board decline any interest in L'École Élémentaire Catholique Saint-Croix and L'École Elementary Catholique Saint-Therese. Moved by Trustee McDonald. Trustee Wendy McPherson. Cast your votes, please. That's Brockville French, yes, I'm sorry. And that carries. Report from the Committee of the Whole, public session, February 25th, 2015. There were 3 presentations and 5 discussion items were shared at the February 25th, 2015 Committee of the Whole meeting, and the following 6 recommendations were brought forward. So I have 6 motions, so I'll begin with the first one. The motion is that the Upper Canada District School Board document policy 226, safe workplace and workplace harassment, with review date February 25th, 2015. Do I have a mover for that? Moved by Trustee Garrett, seconded by Trustee Richards. Cast your votes, please. Second motion, oh, that carries, by the way, unanimous. Thank you. Second motion, the Upper Canada District School Board document policy 421, violence in the workplace, with a review date of February 25th, 2015. Moved by Trustee Bill McPherson, seconded by Trustee McDonald.
Just a point of clarification.
Yes.
What are we voting on?
Oh, if you go to.
These were the,
But just a point of clarification, point of
yep.
Understanding, I guess, more than anything, is if we reviewed them, do we need to vote that we reviewed them? What are we approving?
Good point.
If I might add,
Go ahead, Trustee McAllister.
these policy motions are issued as a result of decisions made at the Committee of the Whole meeting last month, correct?
Yes.
So now we are formalizing them at the regular board meeting?
Yes.
What's the problem?
Trustee McDonald?
But if there were amendments, it should be as amended, not with the review date. Like it should be, so that if they're not amended, we don't need to vote on them. We reviewed them.
Here.
Just a sec there, Trustee McAllister.
These 3 policies are, Nancy, correct me if I'm wrong, they need to be reviewed annually and need to specify as such on the policy, and that's why we just formality to make sure that this motion is in place so we can put the review date on the policy.
But we did.
We reviewed the last one.
Not officially.
The fact that it was itemized on an agenda and minutized that we did to discuss it is a review. To vote on a review is redundant. Sorry, being processed.
You guys put me through my paces tonight, are you? If
I Chair?
Yeah, go ahead, Trustee McAllister.
I disagree, because really, we have a duty to review all policies. This is the official vote on the fact that they were reviewed.
Trustee McAllister, I'm going to go through with the motions on each one of them tonight. Okay? And we'll take a look at this. Okay. So, was I on motion number 2? Thank you very much. So, for tonight, we're going to go through with these motions. That the Upper Canada District School Board document policy 421, violence in the workplace, with a review date of February 25th, 2015, moved by Trustee Richards, Trustee Cram. Thank you very much. Cast your vote. And that carries. Motion 3, the Upper Canada District School Board document 424, occupational health and safety, with a review date February 25th, 2015, moved by Trustee Garrell, Trustee Richards. Thank you. Just cast your votes, please. There it is. Motion 4, the Upper Canada, that carries, by the way. Motion 4, the Upper Canada District School Board of Policy approved policy 307, freedom of information and privacy, with revision as follows, submitted to the Committee of the Whole February 25th. The board will be informed of, on a quarterly basis, of formal requests under the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, and as documented in the annual report submitted to the Information and Privacy Commission. Moved by Trustee Bill McPherson, Trustee Peter Garrow. Thank you very much. Cast your votes. And that carries. Thank you very much. Motion number 5, that the Upper Canada District School Board approve policy 325, cash management, with revisions as submitted to the Committee of the Whole, 2025, 2015, February 2025. Moved by Trustee Cram, seconded by Trustee Richards. Thank you. Cast your votes. And one last one. That carries. Thank you. That the Upper Canada District School Board direct administration to report back to the Board of Trustees in February each year, 2016, 2017, and 2018, regarding the progress of these strategies and include any key result indicators necessary to achieve positive results.
So moved, Chair.
Trustee McAllister, Trustee Garrow, cast your votes,
Point
please.
of clarification,
Point.
what strategies?
It was for the French immersion, if you remember.
I get your point.
Yeah.
Get your point. We don't know what we're doing. This is French. All right. I'm going to remove that motion right now. Okay, we're not going to ignore that one, please. That's gone. And we'll come back and put that at another time. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Okay, moving on.
What just happened there?
Pardon me?
What just happened?
What we did is that motion was not clear. There was nothing in there in terms of what it was that we were asking for the result indicators from. So in the motion itself, there was nothing in there to clarify what it was. So I'm taking that off right now. We'll bring it back.
Thank you.
I just need more clarity. Okay, moving on. 8.02, report of the Ontario Public School Boards. I'll turn this over to Director David McDonald.
Point of order, Chair. Should we not vote on whether to defer that motion?
I think what I'm going to do, Trustee McAllister, I'm not going to take it. I'm just going to take it completely off the agenda simply because the clarity is not there, and there's a lot of questions that I have before I go forward with this. Okay, Director McDonald.
Not a lot to report, Mr. Chair, but I do want to bring to the board's attention, and I will send out subsequent information so that we can discuss at the March 25th meeting. One of the requirements, it's not a requirement, it's an action of OPSPA on an annual basis, is that they call for any policy resolutions or proposed amendments to the Constitution. The deadline for that is April 1st. The process is that you would, as individuals or as a board, can make motions come forward. That would be sent through to the Board of Directors, reviewed at Executive Council, Board of Directors, and then potentially voted on at the AGM in June. So I will send you a link that is associated to the bylaws and Constitution so that you can review if you have any comments or questions. I'll make sure that it is an item within the next agenda so that if we have anything that we can discuss, we'll bring it forward. Other than that, we got a report at our last meeting about the Board of Directors. The 28th, I think it is, the Thursday, Friday, Saturday is Labor Relations in Toronto to discuss the process and state of the province, I guess, as it relates to negotiations and labor relations. And we will have a regional meeting on April 11th in Petawawa. All trustees are invited, encouraged to go. Petawawa is not really, well, for Trustee Cram, it's a little bit more convenient, but but for others, potentially not. But it's an opportunity for us to get to the Renfrew County Board because, or Renfrew District Board, sorry, because we haven't been there for quite some time. So if you're interested in going, we'll speak closer as we get closer to the April 11th, and perhaps we can meet somewhere and do some carpooling. So regional meetings really is where we start to discuss some of these items, some nuances or changes that potentially would be brought forward to the priority works of OPSPA. And it gives all trustees an opportunity to have some input as a region brings information back to the board of directors. So encourage you to attend those, and it's usually from 10 o'clock in the morning till about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And that's my report.
Any questions, comments on that? Trustee Garrett?
No, just to maybe add, thank you, David. You all receive from the legislative updates, you get it also from the communication from Jeff Sprang and that, and I just want to reiterate, like at the meeting itself, John, you were there as well, is that people are certainly coming out and really applauding a lot of the hard work that these people are putting together for OPSPA. And of course, from our native trustees, I provide a report, which is available to everybody too. But even from that meeting, it was interesting because we had, I met a number of trustees, and the whole question of is coming to me personally as a native trustee on the actions of certain members of parliament and asking us for information. The missing and murdered women, for example, the onslaught of where we're looking at curriculum on residential schools, and all of that is coming to me, and it's really amazing, and it's being carried out. It's being discussed and talked about at the board of directors meeting, which I really appreciate. And from that, I was asked to attend for ANDI, the Chiefs of Ontario Education Conference, which was last week, and I attended with my Grand Chief. And it's, again, there's a lot of support because we have a lot of native trustees that were elected who were also at that meeting as well. So we're getting the word out, and I just want, and David, I know that when we're there, it's becoming much more of a surface item in that. So I just want to reiterate that, and again, the discussion around the upcoming, I guess, negotiations, which Charlotte, you were involved with the unions and everything like that. From my perspective, anything is, wow, it's so intricate, so complex, but it's so needed. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any more comments or questions regarding this? So before we go into a private session, Director, do you have any comments you want to make before we go into that?
Just one. Thank you, Chair. I just want to, of course, everyone knows, I'm sure, that March break will soon be upon us, Thursday and Friday of this week, and then the students and staff of Upper Canada will enjoy the March break. And first of all, I want to wish them a very safe and pleasant break, a time to rejuvenate and spend with their families and enjoy each other's company. But most importantly, whatever activity they choose to do, I hope they choose to do it in a safe way. And secondly, in recognition of the break and certainly the hard work of the staff and students of Upper Canada, I want to commend everybody for their success in the classrooms, whether they be students or teachers, and for their success throughout the board, and really appreciate everyone's commitment to the improvement of student learning. So thank you, and have a wonderful March break.
Thank you, Director. You just about said anything I was going to say.
There you go. Stole your thunder.
Well, that's fine. Okay. Everything. Thank you so much. So we're going to move into private session. I need a motion that the Upper Canada District School Board move into private session. Committee of the Whole, moved by Trustee McDonald, seconded by Trustee Cram. Cast your votes, please. Show of hands. Thank you very much. Okay, we're moving into private session. We'll just take a second before we do that.